Hello and welcome back to Inside the Iggles Live. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you guys all had a terrific short work week with your 4th of July weekend, with it being on a weird day there on Tuesday. I still don't exactly know how I feel about it, given that I have 4th of July stuff to do tomorrow. And at this point, I'm kind of just over it, but we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. My last weekend, it was a good weekend. Actually, I got my first text to schedule a fantasy football draft over the weekend. And that's great. I love that. That's great vibes. That means that football's right around the corner. We got OTAs coming up. It means that we can get past everything in the past. We can just put that all past us. We can do that. We can move forward. It was great vibes. That was until Monday, when something came across the TL. And that was when Pro Football Talk reported that the NFL is privately blaming the players for wearing the wrong cleats in the Super Bowl. Oh, man, NFL, just let it die, dude. You got to just let it die. Like we weren't, I guess Brandon Graham did kind of talk about it a little bit like last week, but we all kind of moved past it. And then you're just going to do this. You're just going to do this. Like, certainly don't come back 5 months after it happened and double down. That's not, hey man, that's not the move. That is not the move. And nobody even believes it either. Nobody believes, like, if the NFL is just out there saying, yeah, man, it was the player's fault. Nobody's believing that. But for that to be their stance, my dude. In case you were wondering, I know a lot of people use the word gaslighting, not necessarily knowing what it means, just because that's a kind of a funny thing. Not necessarily funny, like if it's actually happening, but it's just like a fun kind of thing to, like, oh, you're gaslighting me. But in case you were wondering what gaslighting actually is, this is a perfect example. The real problem here was that the turf was ass. All right, and now the NFL is saying, nah, dog, you guys wore the wrong shoes. What are you talking about? They changed their cleats 15 times during the game. You absolute moron. It's very frustrating. But what I think could be unsubstantiated proof, what I believe is that this is just another layer to Sodgate. And I know people don't like hearing about Sodgate. I know that. People say they don't make excuses. People say don't make excuses. I'm allowed to make excuses as a fan. That's what I'm here for, is to be irrational. I'm supposed to be the guy that digs 15 comments deep, 15 replies to the replies, or threads to the I don't understand how threads work, but I'm the guy who's supposed to dig deep and come up with these conspiracies. That's what I'm here for. The players, yeah, you guys, I guess, stick to sports. I don't know, but you guys keep playing. You guys do your thing. Let me defend you. Let me do that. All right. So I've gotten pretty good at explaining Sodgate. If you're uninitiated, let me kind of keep you kind of what's going on with that. All right. So what had happened is, like, the week before the Super Bowl, there was this guy, George Toma. He's the guy, he calls himself the God of Sod. They call him the Sod Father. The NFL gave him a shirt that says Sod Father, whatever. Dude's 94 years old. He's on his way out. He's an old bag of bones. He's going to bite it soon. All right. So what they did is that they got this guy, Ed Mangan is the NFL's field director. They kind of let him spearhead this Super Bowl. Okay. The George Toma was in charge of every other Super Bowl field up until Super Bowl 57. Then we get Ed Mangan. He's the new guy now. All right. And what he does, he waters the field too much. He doesn't dry it out, puts a tarp over it. Field starts rotting, everything like that. Fast forward to the Super Bowl. The Eagles, every time Patrick Mahomes drops back, the Eagles are slipping at least once, 38% of the time. Every time Patrick Mahomes drops back, whenever he's dropping back, sorry, I said that wrong. Whenever Patrick Mahomes drops back, the Eagles are slipping 38% of the time. Jalen Hurts drops back, the Chiefs players are slipping only 14% of the time, 38% to 14%. That's goddamn crazy. That is crazy. That is a 24%. That's almost a 25% increase from team to team. All right, now here's my Brian Windhorse. What could that mean? What could that mean? Could that possibly be George Toma, the guy who has gotten 2 Super Bowl rings for the Chiefs? Could that be him? Giving giving the Chiefs some information? Could that have been it? Because that would be crazy if the Chiefs just so happened to nail it with their cleats. They just so happened to pick the right cleats right off the bat. Maybe that could be it. That could be it. The other thing it could be, is that George Toma's a 95-year-old old bag of bones, like I said, who's spiteful and mad at Ed Mangan. He's spiteful and mad at Ed Mangan. So he's just going to be like, you know what? Let's burn the whole house down. Let's burn the whole house down and let's help the Chiefs. Let's give the Chiefs that information. That could be it too. That could be it too. So what I believe that this whole new thing coming out about that being their quote unquote private reason for the slippage is that it's the player's shoes, buddy. That could that be the NFL doing the just trying to make it up to George Toma? Could be. That could be it. That's what I'm going to go with. Again, I got my tinfoil hat on underneath this one. Okay. I'm a crazy guy. That's what I'm here for. That kind of got me heated all weekend and all week, really. I don't know. I'm being gaslit. We're all being gaslit, man. It's tough. It's a tough look. It's a tough look for everybody. Anyway, that's what I got to say. I'm going to bring in my other two guys. I'm going to bring in Jeffrey Knox and Brandon Pockris. Guys, welcome to the show.
What up? What up? I'm looking at this dog, man. I keep waiting on this dog to bark. Like, it took me about 5 minutes into your discussion.
We're some dogs, man.
I realize this isn't a real dog, man. What's up, dog? What's up? Happy belated 4th. What's going on?
Oh, we're living. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Very fun 4th of July. Just to bring it back to your point with the rant, I think the NFL, I think they just completely mishandled it. I don't think there's any conspiracy behind it. I think, when you trust someone that unfortunately is like 95 years old to maintain an entire Super Bowl field, I think there's going to be mistakes. Now, the NFL blaming the players for that I don't agree with. But, you never know how deep it actually goes conspiracy. But for me, I don't think that the NFL would specifically try to rig a Super Bowl because, and this is just from my perspective, we would have heard a lot more rumblings after the fact. Like, there wouldn't have just been one piece of information. There would have been 10.
And that's why I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it was the NFL. I think it was George Toma, the Sod father. He went rogue, man. He just went rogue. He said, you know what? They're going to get this young hotshot Ed Mangan in here. No, not on my watch. Not on my watch. This is my show, and I'm going to die and nobody else.
Is he really 95 years old?
Yeah. He's like his body is rotten. It's like the field was. His body's just got tough. He's a tough guy, I guess. Apparently,
I also don't think he would ruin his entire reputation on purpose. I'm pretty sure he was retiring. I don't think he'd ruin it in his last Super Bowl after having all the prior Super Bowls to that, for him to just completely toss that all out the window because I guess he's getting replaced. Like, I'm not familiar with this. I haven't dove deep into Sodgate or whatever it's called. Sodgate. I have no idea.
It is. I mean, listen, if you're going to start throwing out rational thoughts like that, like he's not going to throw away his career, it holds water, unfortunately. But we're not going to focus on that. We're, again, irrational excuses. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here. I don't know.
I'm wearing a tinfoil hat with you, man. Like, I'm really upset about this. I'm like, we're never going to get over the Super Bowl, are we? Like, this was supposed to be like the greatest victory in the history of Eagles football, and it turned out to be the most disappointing thing we've ever seen. Like, I'm still torn up about this. Yeah, and three more, I'm still going to keep thinking about this one. We should have won this one.
And it just keeps being things to just cut the whole, like, just not even just reopening the wound, but they're just like cutting it deeper. Like I kept seeing commercials after the Super Bowl, like it was the Disney World commercials. It's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, you guys just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to go to Disney World. And it's like, get off my TV, dude. Like, shut up. I want to die. Like, stop this. I'm throw up and puke and cry more. It's, why me?
I got back to a hotel. I spent the rest of the night in silence, man. I didn't want to see any highlights. I didn't want to see anything related to a Chiefs victory. I didn't want to see that celebration. I didn't want to do anything, man. It was brutal. I'm
Yeah.
old too, man. So I actually remember the Joe Carter home run and stuff like that. So I was like, I believe this was worse. Like I was too young to understand how bad that was. This is awful, man. This is awful.
It was a forced social media cleanse for me. I just turned off. I didn't touch electronics. Just went on a darkness retreat. I was the Aaron Rodgers was falling behind me, man. That's what he did. I did the darkness retreat. And he's like, oh, that Jake Beckman, he's got a good idea. I'm like, nah, man, I'm just quietly sitting in the dark in my living room looking at nothing. It was tough. It was tough, man.
Stepping in for the rational thought once again, it probably stings the most because it's that type of team where you just don't know if everything can be replicated in that sense, and it makes complete sense. And the fact, and I putting myself in those type of shoes, I'd be pissed every time if the NFL is blaming like my team when the grass, the turf was some of the worst turf we've ever seen at any Super Bowl. Those are just the objective things. And the fact that that played such a big role in, how the game played out. I mean, you look at some of the routes the Chiefs were executing and how they got some of their points. You have some better turf, better grass. Some of the biting on the fakes on those routes, you might not have as open receivers.
It was awful, man. I can't begin to say how frustrated I am. Like, even with all that being said, the thing that really stood out for me was I still can't beve we're talking about this like all these months later.
Right.
We're going on like about 5 months since this has happened, man. It still hurts. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, why did they have to
bring this back up?
I don't know. Like I just want to not be. That's what I want. I just want to not. I don't want to be around anymore. That's where I'm at. But we can get into what we're here to talk about today. This is the the Propcast. Let's call it the Propcast. The Propcast podcast. That's what we're doing. We're talking props. We're going to talk props. We're going to talk Eagles season long props. We are going to talk NFL props. We got a whole bunch. I kind of before the show, I keyed these guys into some of them. They added a few too, and then I've got some surprise props, which I came up with myself, and I'm quite excited about those. But let's get into the first one. The first one that we're going to do, we're going to start off easy. We're going to start off with Jalen Hurts passing yards for the 2023-2024 season. Jalen Hurts passing yards over under 3,700 and the hook, 3,700.5 passing yards for the season. What do we think?
I'm going to go over. I'm definitely going to go over. Jalen Hurts has improved every year as a passer. Jalen Hurts I don't think he runs as much this year. I don't think we see a situation where he's put himself in harm's way. He actually went over 3,700 last year and he missed 2 games.
Yep. Just over 37 and 1.
3701, and he missed 2 games. I don't think that I see no situation in my mind where if he plays those other 2 games, he doesn't get another 300 yards. That's 150 yards per game. Also seeing the fact that this is a more difficult schedule that the Eagles are playing this year. They're not going to be leading as much. We take out the Pittsburgh game, the Tennessee games where the starters were allowed to rest and things of that nature. The starters are going to be playing like all of these 17 games this season. And I just don't see a scenario where Jalen Hurts doesn't throw for more than 4,000 yards. Dallas Goedert is healthy for a full 17 games as opposed to 12. Better teams and better quarterbacks means more shootouts. Perhaps the Eagles are trailing in some of these games late as opposed to being ahead. They're not running the ball out and grinding out at the end of the games. A few more shootouts. I see no reason why he didn't get to 4,000, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I like that because one of the games that he sat out was that Dallas game where Gardner threw for $1 billion too. Like it's not like it would just be a small number of additional yards that he would get. So I agree with that. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm going to take the over, and like we ran through the depth chart last episode, and if you really look at the main Eagles running backs at the moment, really outside of Rashad Penny, you have receiving threats in DeAndre Swift and in Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, where you get the ball to those guys in space. You don't really need Hurts to scramble, to run as often. And that's not saying you're going to eliminate that from his repertoire, from what he brings as a quarterback, but you take some of those rushing yards, you turn that into passing yards. You already have A.J. Brown. You already have Devonta Smith. We talked about Zacchaeus, Quez Watkins, Dallas Goedert. You put all of that together, plus a tougher schedule, I don't see any reason why he can't get past that and push towards a 4,000, 4,500 potentially yard season.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Yeah, I mean, having all the additional weapons is definitely something that'll be substantial for it. And I think that was a good point too, that the rushing numbers potentially going down and everything. But yeah, I do like the over 3,700 as well. I think that's a pretty tasty one. Okay, next one is Jalen Hurts passing TDs. I think we're probably going to be in agreement here too, based on what we just said. Jalen Hurts passing TDs over under 22.5. Last year he was at 22. What do we think?
First of all, I think we got Honest Hurts fan on Twitter says Jalen Hurts will never reach 4,000 passing yards in a season. There are two things in that name: Honest and Hurts fan. So I don't know if we're cheering for Hurts or we're trying to be realistic about what we think the possibilities are. That just threw me. I'm sorry, but Honest Hurts fan said he's never going to throw for 4,000. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
over under 22.5 passing yards.
22 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, sorry, 22 passing touchdowns. Correct. Yeah, does he get over 22 passing yards?
Yeah, based off the same thing I think we just said. 22 passing touchdowns last year, if I'm not mistaken. A few more shootouts. Maybe a couple more losses on ledger, trailing, garbage time TDs, all those things I'm taking into consideration here. Again, having Dallas Goedert available for a full 17-game slate. Also pulled up the schedule here. We got Minnesota. That's going to be a field day. The secondary that really scares me is the New York Jets. And I'll even throw the Seattle Seahawks secondary in there as well.
Who's that young guy they just got? Or no, they got him last year.
Yeah, they got a stud rookie last year corner, and then they picked up another one this year. Let me pull up their names and stuff. But the Seattle secondary, I remember thinking that that probably bothers me a little bit. I see no problems out of the Giants. Arizona, Dallas is going to give up some yards. Buffalo tends to be a little free with the yardage. Kansas City, he ate them up last year.
Yeah.
I think they take a step backwards. The LA Rams are terrible. Division opponents. We'll see with New England, but I think he gets off to a great start in probably at least those first 5 games. We'll see what happens against the Jets. Maybe he shreds them. But yeah, I'm gonna go over definitely. I don't know if I'm ready to say 30 yet because we know his legs are still a big part of his arsenal, but I do think he'll definitely get for 20. He'll get above 22. No problem.
So for me, looking at this line, 20 is a line I'm comfortable with. I'm going to take the over with this line as well. But, if we started pushing towards like the 25 range, that's where I would probably start to get a little hesitant in the sense of, he's still going to have the rushing touchdowns. I feel like he's still going to be that goal line red zone threat where if he doesn't take those touchdowns away from his passing, I feel like that number could be closer to that 25-30 range. But with the line at 22.5, I'm definitely going to take that.
My only hesitation here, because Jalen has yet to play a full season, I think that
I thought about it too.
If hopefully, if not when that those missed games come, it kind of, like you said, if he late in the season, I'm seeing December 31st against the Cardinals. If he's out in a late game like that, because that seems like that's where kind of his injuries have been, mid to late season. That would be one of those that would kind of drop those numbers down a little bit. But I think if we're saying full on healthy Jalen Hurts, I think I like the over 22.5. Maybe not a whole lot more, but I mean, yeah, I think overs. I think that might be the play there. Okay. Next one we're doing Eagles players with over 1,000 yards receiving. The over under that I set is 2.5 players. 2.5 players. Now, one thing that should be known here is that I went one of the sports book that I looked at for this. Dallas Goedert, his over-under for receiving yards is at 675.5 yards.
That's
AJ
low.
Brown is at 1,050.5 yards, and Devontae Smith is at 975.5 yards. So the over-unders that the books have set out do not buy into three guys getting over 1,000 yards. It actually, the over-unders are set at only one guy really getting 1,000 yards. What do we think?
You want to take this with first, Brandon? Like my brain is
Yeah,
it was a lot there. Like
I can dumb it, not dumb it down.
no,
But
I'm just thinking about what they were saying. Like, so Dallas Goedert was 675 yards.
675 in the hook.
Okay, Dallas Goedert's never played a full season, but 11 games in 2020, 524 yards, more than 700 in each of the past two seasons, and missed 2 games in 21 and 5 in 22. Like, I don't know where they're getting that number from. Like, I personally believe Dallas Goedert would have gotten to 1,000 yards this season had he been healthy for a full 17-game stretch. Again, we're talking about injuries, and somebody has a tendency to rack them up from time to time.
Right.
But I'm gonna go over because I don't see any scenario where AJ Brown and Devontae Smith don't both exceed 1,000 yards receiving. Devontae, as small as he is, we talked about that forever, but he's tough. We've seen AJ Brown get hurt before, but what was he like 4 yards short of 1,500 last year? Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
I can look that up.
It's gonna be hard to do that again, but I don't think he somehow just falls off a cliff and just drops below the 1K threshold. I don't see that at all.
Yeah, he was.
I'm
AJ was at
I'm
1490.
gonna say AJ Devontae and got it all go about 300 yards, strengthening our argument that he will throw for more than 4,000 yards.
Right. Yeah, because that's 1,000 yards between whoever the hell else.
that's the hang up for me, where looking at this, we have Hurts. We took the Hurts over 37, but I feel like, for me at least, looking at it, if there's 3 players that go over 1,000, then he's definitely probably getting extremely close to 4,000. So I'm just torn on this one, because as much as I feel like Hurts is going to throw the ball, I feel like the Eagles still are going to rely on their run game. It's not like they're going to suddenly turn into the Buffalo Bills where the running backs get 5 total carries or 7 total carries in a game. So I'm personally going to go with the under, in the sense of I think Hurts hits his over, but I think Goddard gets close but doesn't eclipse it. And I think some of the other depth options, like a Watkins or a Zacchaeus, they play a critical role where they're getting 600, 700 yards, something in that range, but you're not having your 3 main guys go over 1,000. I think 2 of AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert go over 1,000. I just don't think the Eagles are going to throw the ball enough to have 3 guys go over.
I'm kind of torn about this Jets game too. I keep looking at this Jets game. Okay, we always beat the Jets, but this is Aaron Rodgers. So does that mean shootout, or do we get the Aaron Rodgers we've seen like last year or so? But I do feel like the Eagles are going to find a way to win that game. I feel like they struggle a little bit. And I actually looked up the Seahawks secondary that we were talking about earlier. Tariq Woolen, fantastic rookie corner last year and everything. But they've added Devin Witherspoon, man. Like, we had mock drafts. I was actually seeing people were talking about. Now, we never take a defensive back in the first round, like but I was seeing mock drafts where people were like trying to send Devin Witherspoon to the Eagles at 10. So, I mean, he's a stud. Like, he forced me, and him, Sidney Jones, and somebody else forced me to go watch a little Illinois football. But
Belief.
And the Eagles have always had problems with the Seahawks and stuff, and I don't know what it is about the Seahawks. They seem to have this team's number. If Hurts struggles to some degree, maybe it's week 15 and that week 15 game versus the losses of Seahawks and stuff. But
to your point about the Jets game, I could be wrong, but that's not a game I expect to be a shootout. I expect the Jets to want to keep the Eagles' offense off the field, and it turns more into a ground and pound type game.
Fair enough.
We are still extremely far away, and lots of things can change from now until that game, because that is the Eagles. I think their 6th game on the schedule. So, yeah, lots of things can change, but just looking at it, I mean, I think the Jets are going to want to rely on their running game a ton. I don't think they want Aaron Rodgers dropping back 40 times a game. And I think the only way that happens is if the Eagles force the Jets' hand.
I think that's fair. I
can rock with it. You might be talking me out about 3 players go over 1,000 yards argument, right?
Yeah, it mentioned spread it out to multiple people. That's like, well, damn it. All right.
It's just so hard for 3 separate guys to go over 1,000 because that means a ton of targets are being funneled to those specific guys on the offense. And it means you are basically running, I wouldn't say an air raid, but you are really relying heavily on your passing attack, and you're only using the running game to supplement it. And I just don't see the Eagles just completely going away from what worked for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where we just saw last year, they could, if something didn't work, they would just win in a different way with their offense. So yeah, no, I mean, that's, you might look at the game, and that's what I'm thinking of that Jets game, that week 6, that could be one of those where it's like, oh yeah, the Eagles can win whatever the way they want to win. Like it does, like maybe the first 5 games are kind of one script, and then that Jets game comes around and it ends up being a beatdown in a different, maybe not a beatdown, but the offense moving the ball in a different way.
But it's also like with the Jets, right? What's one of their main strengths? They have 2 great outside corners. They have Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's a complete weakness, but the middle of the Jets defense is not as strong. So how do you attack that? You run the ball and you use Dallas Goedert. So it's like the game plan can shift where it's going to be so hard for 3 guys to consistently get looks unless you're funneling the targets to them.
That's fair. That's more than fair. I think you have flipped me to the under 2.5 for that. I think that's a very good point. All right. Surprise prop number 1. All right. You guys weren't prepared for this. All right. Jerry Jones does an interview and he creates his own QB controversy. Over under week 3.5.
Oh, I gotta look at the Cowboys schedule here. That's going to inform my decision.
Last year, if you recall, he had a radio interview where he said that he would not be upset if Cooper Rush ended up winning the starting position or starting QB over Dak Prescott, because that would be like Dak getting it over Romo. He said that. That was in week 2. When I looked this up, that was in week 2. The guy did it that quick. What are you doing, Jer? So that's the over under is week 3.5.
Under. I'm going with the under. So looking at the Dallas Cowboys schedule, they start off September 10th. Pretty sure that is a Sunday night football game in New York. They play the Giants. They then host the Jets the next week. If they lose both those games, you are going to hear Jerry Jones talk, because I highly doubt he wants to lose to Aaron Rodgers again. And I highly doubt he wants to lose to the Giants right off the bat. Now, if you want to extend it a little bit, I'd say under 3.5, because their week 3 opponent is none other than the Arizona Cardinals. If by some insane chance the Cardinals keep the game close, or I'd say even beat the Cowboys, well, it'd be hilarious, but I'd also expect Jerry Jones to say something after that game too.
Yeah, and the other side of that, if Dak goes out in that game in garbage time, they put in Cooper Rush, whoever the hell they're marching out there, and he goes crazy, they'll be like, well, maybe it is going to be. Jerry Jones is just addicted to being a goddamn lunatic on the radio, and I love it. What a character, what a lunatic, what a moron. I love that. So I do.
Jerry Jones is his own guy, man. Like that week 3 game against the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray's not going to be back for that one, is he?
No.
We
got Colt McCoy in the lineup. we get Colt McCoy versus Dak Prescott.
Barn burner.
I'm going to go bold prediction here. Way too early bold prediction. I'm going to say the Cowboys find a way around the Giants, but they lose to the New York Jets at home. I miss those days where the Giants beat the Cowboys all the time. They're going to lose to the Jets at home, and Jerry is just going to fly off the deep end and stuff. And I think
that's what we want, baby.
Yeah, I think despite the victory, I think there's some issues after the Giants game, because we get to see Mike McCarthy call plays, and it's going to be ugly. So ugly win against the Giants. Loss versus the Jets at home in the home opener. Yeah, Jerry Jones flies off the handle. I'm going to go under week 2. I'm going to go under week 3.
Yep, and then he says I don't know what kind of slur he's going to say on the radio, but he's going to say one, and it's going to go viral. That's what's going to happen, Jer.
We're predicting that. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, we're doing bold predictions. He said bold, people.
Shout out Jason Thompson, sup y'all, lifetime Eagles fan. You know you all right with us if you one of those.
All right. Next one. Let's get back to normal ones. DeAndre Swift rushing yards over under 500.5 yards.
I have a confession. You know, I've always hated numbers because I was a writer and I knew this is what I was going to end up doing and things of that nature. Math bothered me. Like a simple addition and subtraction I can do. Division, multiplication I can do. Calculus got on my nerves. I like geometry because it was just memorization and stuff, but you hit me with a lot of numbers here. What is 500 divided by 17? Let me go ahead and put it up real quick.
Oh, obviously
that is. Hey, Katana. Where's Katana?
Without looking it up, it's
Siri and Katana are talking when I'm not talking to him and things of that nature, but as soon as I call him, I actually need him for some information.
Right around 29, 30 yards per game.
I think DeAndre Swift can get 30 yards a game. This is one you pull from DraftKings? Or
yes.
What are you doing, DraftKings?
Yes.
They're giving away money. Yeah, I think he can get about 30 yards a game.
How many games is he playing though? And that's the key.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say he exceeds well past 30 in several of these contests and everything. Maybe hits the 70-yard mark somewhere along the lines. Split some carries with. I don't see how it's not possible. I think if you stretch it out over 17 games, or even if you have like an explosion here or there, we may see one of those classic games where you always have that one game where one of the tailbacks scores 3 touchdowns and goes off. Maybe he has like two of those or so, but yeah, 500 yards should be easy.
Yeah, and even if he has a quiet game where he goes 14, 15 yards or something like that, that's not hard to make up with 16 other games.
I'm going to make another prediction. As much hype as we put behind DeAndre Swift this offseason, and as excited as we were to get him, if he rushes for less than 500 yards, this fan base is going to go off. Yeah, I think Brian Johnson finds a way to showcase him at least 3 or 4 times during the season and has a couple of explosive games and split some carries, but 500 should be easy.
So just looking at it, right, I'm taking the over because it's an absolute disaster for DeAndre Swift if he doesn't hit the over.
Right.
Basically, if he has 12 carries a game, which isn't a given, obviously, but it's not on the high side for running backs, to get 30 yards a game, he'd have to average 2.5 yards per carry. That is a terrible number for an NFL running back. If DeAndre Swift is not averaging 2.5 yards per carry, first of all, I don't think he'll even be touching the ball by week 6. Second of all, something went horribly wrong.
So I just pulled up DeAndre Swift's numbers like I never did this because I don't watch Detroit games. It was much easier to keep up with every other NFL team when you weren't covering one. I just pulled up DeAndre Swift's numbers. Hadn't done this all season, believe it or not. But 3 years in the league, his best season was 617 yards in 2021. In 2022, 542 yards. In 2020, 521. I'm a little worried here now.
Well, how many games did he play in each of the season?
He makes up for it in receiving. Like 389 yards receiving in 21, 452 in 2021. Well, 389 last year, 452 in 21, and 357 as a rookie. So he's an all-purpose guy and stuff like that. But rushing yards, is it too late to? No, I'm gonna stick with it, man. I'm speaking with my chest here. He's gonna go around for 500 yards. Like I see no reason why he doesn't. This is gonna be his breakout year's best season as an Eagle.
I would certainly hope so. Playing behind an Eagles offensive line, he's
That's
just not that's much different than having Penei Sewell be the best guy that you're running behind.
Penei Sewell is very talented. Let's not rip on Penei Sewell.
No. I'm saying that I'm ripping on the other 4 guys.
Over there too.
I like the Lions O-line. I wouldn't say it's the Eagles O-line, but I still like it.
So next one. More receiving yards. Quez Watkins or Olamide Zaccheaus? Just kind of a shot in the dark, really, honestly.
I'll go first on this one. I talked about how I like Zacchaeus a lot, how I like him as a underrated part of this Eagles wide receiver room. I think he's going to play a bigger role than a lot of people expect. Maybe not necessarily as the number 3 right out the gate, but I think he's going to come through clutch in a lot of situations for the Eagles.
I think that's fair.
I'm gonna go Olamide too. I feel like I'm just feeling like he's gonna be maybe not necessarily a red zone target, but a guy that ends up racking up a lot of third down catches to go for first downs, things of that nature. Like, you're trying to take away AJ Brown in those situations. You're fortunate enough to have the second best cover guy on Devontae Smith. Again, we'll see about Dallas Goedert and stuff, but I think he sneaks out. He's a little bit more sneaky and a little bit more productive on third down than we're probably thinking. So I'm actually going to go with him over Quez Watkins and stuff, because I still have to see it to believe it. Like, Quez Watkins hasn't gained my trust again after what we saw last year. He was just came up small in a lot of big spots when he needed to come up big.
That's exactly what my thought is too. We saw what Quez Watkins could do when he was able to get a good share of the passing game workload with Dallas Goedert being out, and it wasn't what anybody wanted it to be. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Quez Watkins, but I think that'll be an interesting one.
And Olamide had more receptions and more receiving yards last year.
Yeah, and it's not like Olamide Zacchaeus was a bad receiver for the it was just being thrown to by,
and a similar offense. Got a mobile quarterback. They do a lot of the same things there. But yeah, I'm of the opinion. I think that kind of repeats itself in Philly. I think he actually wins a slot wide receiver role over Quez.
Hope so.
And I think he's out there, and I think he does some good things in big spots. I think we get the anti-Quez. I think he comes up big in spots when given the opportunity.
I would not be mad about that. All right, surprise prop number two. The week that Giants fans turn on Daniel Jones, over under week 4.
I'm going to go over. They seem to believe in this guy.
I think it's going to be a home loss for them against the Seahawks. I think that's where they turn on him. I guess it should be 4.5, honestly, because week 4 would be that game. So yeah, I'm actually going to go under. But I'm an agent of chaos, and I'm just rooting for that.
I'm going with the over. I mean, I wouldn't say like I'm team Daniel Jones, but I'm relatively confident he can keep the Giants afloat and keep them moving this year.
I think that my line of thought is that that's going to be the healthiest that his team is ever going to be in those first 4 weeks. And if he's not wheeling and dealing, I think there's going to be trouble in paradise at the tune to $40 million a year.
We always talk about the I don't want to say any game is easy. I always hate when people say that, but we always talking about the favorable schedule for the Eagles at the beginning of the season. Look at the Giants' first couple of games. You got Dallas, at Arizona, at San Francisco, Seattle at home, at Miami, at Buffalo. They could lose all of those games with the exception of the Arizona game. We don't know if Saquon is playing or not, but so I'm gonna change my pick here. I'm gonna go under. This is New York, the Big Apple, and one of the most fierce medias on planet Earth. I think they're gonna go into panic if the Giants start 1-3, which I think is probably capable of happening. They could start 1-5.
I'm sticking to my pick here. I'm not wavering.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one. We'll do one of Brandon's. All right, so looking at this, it is the Comeback Player of the Year award. The one that Brandon put down was DeMar Hamlin at -250.
Do we have a list of who he's up against?
I can pull that up. Well, I mean, who knows though? Is my thing. I can look that up but who knows
if DeMar Hamlin comes back and he's relatively exceptional or relatively decent, I don't see how he doesn't get that award. It's like it's going to tug at our heartstrings. They're not going to not give him that award. It's kind of like when J.J. Watt had that Man of the Year award locked up after the flood, and we just knew it.
Yeah,
that's kind of been my thought process with it, where it's like if he even steps foot on a field and plays enough to qualify for the award, he's winning the award.
But what if he just goes out there and allows like a 95 passer rating, like through the season? Like, what if he just ends up stinking, man?
People don't pay attention, man. People don't pay attention. The Bills Mafia is going to stick up for him.
But then also you're looking at like who else could be number one? I don't know who the last.
So I got the odds on FanDuel.
Okay.
So besides Hamlin, who now has moved from -250 to -300,
Jesus.
you have Lamar Jackson at +2,000.
Okay.
You have Breece Hall at +2,000. This would be my dark horse. This next guy, if not Hamlin, you have John Mechie III at +2,100, and then Tua at +2,500, and Cooper Kupp at +2,500. If there's anyone, in my opinion, that it's going to be outside of Hamlin, it's going to be John Mechie.
That's a good one too.
I'm going the other way. I think, as unfair as this may sound, I think just based on story alone, I think they won't give it to Mechie, even if he deserves it.
Well, it's Mechie's also coming back from cancer.
That's a tough man. Dying and cancer, man. Those are neck and neck.
I'm so sorry. I'm thinking John Ross.
No, because the thing I can liken.
I'm thinking Henry Ruggs. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Henry Ruggs. I'm sorry.
It's when Eric Berry came back after he battled through his cancer treatment. I find it very similar to that. So I feel like, honestly, Hamlin or Mechie would be a great recipient of the award. We were talking about an award before any game has even been played. But if there's two guys that I'm putting money on, it's those two.
That's good. The other two that I thought OBJ could be considered a comeback player of the year. And then my dark horse, probably a dark horse for a good reason, but a man coming back from a crippling gambling addiction, apparently, with Calvin Ridley. Gambling addiction probably doesn't beat out cancer or dying, I think, in anybody's book, but hey, those are two other guys.
Calvin Ridley, unfortunately, is not listed, but Odell Beckham is at +5,000. The highest odds that you could bet on are Tim Patrick, Carson Wentz, and Zach Wilson at +17,000.
It won't be Carson Wentz. It won't be Carson Wentz. The NFL loves stories, and I don't think the story of Calvin Ridley winning it is as poetic or as beautiful as Damar Hamlin or John Mechie. And again, I apologize to listen public. I got my players mixed up, but John Mechie or Damar Hamlin. And I think if Damar Hamlin goes out and plays 17 games and is decent, I think he gets it.
Yeah. It's just, my only thought is, what if he stinks? And in that case, man, that's a tough look. That's death wins in that one.
I don't think it matters in that case because he still played. Like, the fact that he's even on the football field, I feel like is enough for the award.
But what if Cooper Kupp goes out there and just absolutely lights it up the way that he had been?
I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters.
Or John Mechie for that matter.
That's screw Cooper Kupp. They don't seem to want to give him anything. Like, he should have been the MVP a couple years ago.
Right, he won the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay. Let's do another one of Brandon's MVP for the season. MVP for the season. You listed Lamar Jackson at +1,500. I'm assuming that means that you kind of like him in that spot. As far as the top four for MVP odds, it's Mahomes at +700, Burrow at +750, Josh Allen at 800, Hurts at 1,100.
Give them to me again.
Okay. One is Mahomes at +7, Burrow 750, Allen 800, Hurts 1,100, and then Lamar Jackson at 1,500.
I'm gonna throw Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen out. So it's between Mahomes, Burrow, and Hurts. They'll find a way to screw Jalen Hurts. Much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes us, and we care a little bit more than we say we do.
I'm very, very on board with Lamar because I feel like he's going to have, finally, an offense that actually plays to his strengths. And I know people are going to say, wait, they've ran the ball a ton. Lamar Jackson's a very good thrower of the football. And he can throw the ball extremely far and extremely accurate. The problem is Greg Roman ran a 1980s style offense. It's just they did not use their wide receivers. There's a reason that no wide receiver was successful or wanted to come to Baltimore. It's because of the offense they were running. I think if Baltimore actually lets Lamar open up the offense, you're getting MVP form Lamar Jackson again. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting to watch this year.
Yeah, that can be very Vic adjacent.
Interesting.
I do like that.
That'll be a second. Right?
Yes, it would be a second MVP.
What was his first one? Was that 19?
Pretty sure it was his rookie year. 19, yeah. Either 19 or I think it was 19.
I think it was 20.
It was 20?
The rookie came in for.
He was behind.
Oh, it was
Phil.
20 then. Yes. Yes.
Wasn't it Phil? I think it was behind Phil.
It was Flacco.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Why was my dumb brain thinking that Phillip Rivers was ever a Raven? That was stupid. That was a dumb brain.
He was on a lot of teams towards the end of his career.
He's a journeyman of sorts. Okay. So
you're right. MVP in 2019.
It was 19? Okay.
His rookie was 18 though.
Yes, because he was the Sam Darnold
he's
class.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's always a fun one when ESPN starts throwing those out after week 2. It's like, well, this is fun. I can't wait for this discourse for the next 4 months. All right, next one. Marcus Mariota, over under 2.5 games started.
Under. I think Jalen Hurts surprised everybody and plays all 17 games.
The only way I'm seeing this one hit is if, number one, the Eagles have a very similar season to what they did last year and just absolutely roll through their schedule. Or 2, Hurts actually is dealing with more injuries. And I don't think he's going to deal with more injuries. I also don't think the Eagles are going to just easily roll through their schedule. I think they're going to have a great record, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was last year. So I'm also going to take the under.
Yeah, I
think Hurts runs more out of necessity and design this year, and I'm definitely hoping that's the case. Maybe not, but I think he runs more out of necessity and design. I think he takes a little bit better care of himself. He's tired of missing games. We're tired of seeing it. And I think some of those quarterback sneaks end up being hands-off spinny, things of that nature. That's why you wouldn't got all these running backs in the first place. At least I hope so.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the schedule. If you're like you said, Brandon, probably not going to be the same dominant run that they had last year, where they could have locked up the first seed in week 15 or whatever the hell it was. But I mean, like, even if we're talking, it's starting the games at the end of the season. It goes, the last 3 games are Giants, Cardinals, Giants. I can't imagine that he'd be starting, that Marcus would be starting those games. But yeah, the injury thing, I think that's a good point there too, with him running more out of necessity, because that was exactly what that injury in Chicago was. Now, what if the number was moved to 1.5?
1.5 starts?
Yeah, 1.5 starts for Marcus Mariota.
They always trip me out with these halves, man. Like half people and half.
Well, it's just making it so you can't hit it. Like,
I'm still tripping off the 2.5 guys going over like 1,000 yards thing. Let me think. 1.5.
So that would be Marcus Mariota starting less than 2 games, or starting 2 games or more.
I like those odds better than 3, but I really think I'm thinking Jalen starts all 17 this year.
I think it's very good wishful thinking. I think that's what we need in these trying times.
Right.
Where people are reminding us of last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with what I said. I think it's the under. I think Hurts has a very healthy year.
Sweet. Okay. Surprise prop number 3. The week that Ron Rivera realizes that the Commanders have been eliminated from playoff contention. Over under week 18.5. So does he realize that they've been eliminated from playoff contention before it happens is the question. If you remember last year, it was at the end of week 17. He didn't realize that he could be eliminated from playoff contention that day until a reporter asked him about it after the game. So the question here is, does that old guy still stay old?
This story has never made any sense to me. I find it hilarious every single time.
Yeah.
I am a proponent of people learning from their mistakes. I think he realized it beforehand. Unless the Commanders are still in contention, but I think the under.
Man, it'd be funny if it wasn't.
I'm gonna go under too.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Schedule.
You probably think that he hired somebody to like tell him, but thought that would be fun. Okay.
We'll have a tough schedule. At Arizona at home in the opener, at Denver, Buffalo, at Philly, Chicago, at Atlanta, at New York, Philly, at New England, at Seattle, New York. It gets a little tougher later, but
if you look at strength of schedule, the entire East is the top eight strength of schedules. It's the AFC East and the NFC East. Those are the toughest strength of schedules in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why is because both were such a good team. That's why like the Cowboys have like the second hardest strength of schedule in the NFC, and that's just the Eagles are like so much higher because the Eagles don't have to play the Eagles. Like that's the reason. It's the dog-eat-dog world last year, and
they get Kansas City the world champs on the road.
It's
kind of the unfair trade-off and stuff.
Yeah, so if you look at it, the top 8 strength of schedules in order: Eagles, Dolphins, Giants, Patriots, Cowboys, Jets, Bills, Commanders.
It just seems like a lot of those teams are going to buckle under that. It seems like that might be tough. All right, next one. What time are we at? We're at 52 minutes. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all these.
Just start going rapid fire.
Yes. Eagles wins versus the NFC East, over under 4.5. Those games have them written down on the other page. So it's Eagles wins against the NFC East, over under 4.5. It goes home against Washington in week 4, at Washington week 8, home against Dallas in week 9, at Dallas in week 14, at home against New York in week 16, at New York in week 18.
The only issue I have is them possibly splitting with Dallas. I think they sweep the Commanders and the Giants. Some say over.
You think that you think that the Eagles play in that week 18 game?
I think in my bold predictions for the season, I think the game by game predictions, I think I swept the NFCs. But worst case scenario, I'm gonna say they lose to Dallas somewhere.
The only concern I'd have is the back half where the Eagles could be resting starters. Otherwise, I think it's over.
So you think they win 5 or more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that too. I like the idea of them sweeping. I like that hopefully we get 2 Dak and Jalen games to kind of end any chatter, and I think that'll pay off. Okay. Number of Commanders starting quarterbacks, over under 2.5. They have Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett, and who the hell knows who else they could pick up. Do we think they're going to play just those 2 guys, or are they going to end up marching another guy out there at some point?
They'll play 3 quarterbacks. I'm
taking the under. I like Sam Howell a lot, and I think Brissett could do enough to just steady the team. And they don't really have another developmental guy outside of Howell. They're a type of team where if things don't go right, they're entering the Caleb Williams sweepstakes very quickly, and I don't see any reason why they would start mixing and matching quarterbacks unless they want to make it completely and blatantly obvious. So I'm taking the under.
My only thought there is that the politicking with the team being sold and everything, I think it might just be like what the hell do we have to lose kind of a thing, and then might just
fair
throwing stuff at a wall. Over Pro Bowlers, over under 6.5.
Over.
You like over?
At 8 last year, they could have had more. I'm gonna go over.
I'll take over as well.
Do we think that's same people on the offensive line, and then
spoiler alert, I got one coming out. I think it already dropped, but first timers, like it's about time for Jordan Mailata, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. I'm confident enough in Jalen Carter. Like nobody seems to be paying attention to how good that guy is. Jalen Carter can play. He might get one right out the bat. So I'm gonna go over 6.
I think nobody's paying attention to Jalen Carter because of what are you driving like that in a neighborhood for? What are you doing? I think it's because of how charismatic Nolan Smith is. I think that might be the kind of the detriment to him there.
That's true.
Okay. More rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts or more, no, sorry, more touchdowns. Jalen Hurts rushing or the field. So do we think that Jalen Hurts is going to have the most touchdowns on the team just using his legs, or do we think somebody else could get more than him? For a note, last year Miles Sanders had 11 touchdowns and Jalen Hurts had 13.
I'll take the field. They got four guys. Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift. They could be good. They can be pretty special in a rotation. So I'm gonna go with the field.
Are we talking like the field combined against Hurts?
No. Just somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good God. I would
just rushing touchdowns, right?
Like receiving touchdowns as well. So is Jalen Hurts going to get more touchdowns using his legs than anybody else gets total on the team?
I'm gonna take the field. I'm gonna take the field with that one as well.
Yeah.
Now, my thought there is always the QB sneak play after a
you think about those quarterback sneaks too. Yeah.
After a pass interference or a defensive hold in the end zone, you get the ball on the 1 yard line, you run the play.
Mm-hmm. Couple of scrambles too and everything. I think he'll exceed double digits and everything, but I'll still take the field.
Okay. I kind of like Jalen. I kind of like Jalen in that one because of the QB sneak. Okay, Hassan Reddick over under 11. You're gonna hate this. 11.75 sacks because you can get 11 and a half sacks, so they make it 11.
Yeah, that I understand. Yeah, over 16 last year. I think he's going to have a better year than he had last year. And I think having like guys like a more experienced Jordan Davis in the middle, a more experienced Jalen Carter, the threat of having somebody on the other side, I think he goes off. I'm gonna say 17, 18.
Yeah, I don't think Reddick's going to be the guy they double team on that defense, and as a result, I think he's going to have another very good season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my only thing about this one is I don't know what a Sean Desai defense is going to look like.
Same.
That's big caveat. Big caveat.
I was going to say it's different because the two defensive coordinators that we've gone to last with Jim Schwartz and freaking Jonathan Gannon like are two polar opposite dudes. So maybe Desai has got to be somewhere in the middle there. So I'm very curious to see how that goes with pressuring. Josh Sweat over under 7.5 sacks.
Over.
I think he sits comfortably in the 8.5 range. So
yeah, I'm over 8.5 too. Over.
Okay, so you're going because the next one I was going to do
8.5, just under 10.
Say that again.
8.5, 9, just under 10. I'm going with what B said.
Okay, so I'm assuming I'm going to know what your answer is for this next one. Players with double-digit sacks over under 2.5. I'm assuming you're both going under there.
Yeah, I'm taking the under with that. I think the Eagles defense can have another really good year when it comes to rushing the passer, but it's so hard for players to get to double digits, let alone multiple guys getting to double digits.
Yeah, I think I put that one on there, being like, closing my eyes, like, wouldn't that be sweet? That'd be cool.
I think you have great seasons by a lot of guys, but maybe only one going over double-digit sacks, and the wealth is spread a little bit more evenly. So I'm gonna go under.
Okay, I'm gonna do two more, and that because it's almost an hour, I'm gonna do two more, and we'll get off.
We can do a little overtime, but
you want to do a little bit of over because it's just one more, and then I got win totals for teams.
If B is cool, I'm cool.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, then let's do this. Oh yeah, surprise prop. Does Jonathan Gannon get fired in season? Yes or no? A note is that in the last 2 seasons, a first-year head coach has gotten fired in season. 2 years ago, it was the butthole toucher, Urban Meyer, and then last year it was Nathaniel Hackett.
I think they stick with him. The Cardinals have to know they're terrible. They don't have a quarterback. They have to know they're bad at this point. And they really like Jonathan Gannon. Didn't they interview him like 3 times? Didn't they interview him like last year too? Like, that's the guy they wanted. They'll stick with him. I don't see how you don't believe in him more than you believe in the last guy they had. What's the offensive genius?
Kingsbury.
Yep.
Kingsbury, yeah. I believe. I don't really believe in Jonathan Gannon as a coach, but I believe in him more than I believe in Kingsbury.
Really?
Yeah.
My whole thing is all the moves the Cardinals have made this offseason, they had to have known what their plan was, to just be god awful and just have one of the worst constructed rosters we've seen in recent NFL memory. Mm-hmm. The only way I see Gannon getting fired is if it somehow goes worse than that, which wouldn't completely rule out. But like, we're talking like worst team in NFL history by a wide margin type bad, to where even with the lack of talent, the coaching and the decision making and things along those lines are so bad, where Arizona's like, okay, we're getting our new quarterback and we're getting our new head coach and lining them up. That's the only way I see it, where Arizona, I feel like, knows what direction they're heading in. If it goes so bad to the point where they can't even save face by keeping Gannon, that's the only way I see him getting fired. So I think he stays.
Who do you think lasts longer, Kyler or Jonathan Gannon?
Gannon. I think Kyler's gone after the season, 1,000%. I don't think Kyler wants to be a part of a rebuild. This is someone that won every single level consistently and basically faced no real like struggle and adversity in sports until he reached the highest level. So I personally, if I'm Kyler in this type of sport, I wouldn't want to go through a rebuild, because the Cardinals literally tore everything down to the studs. This is not something where a highly paid quarterback like him really should sit through. And on the flip side, I don't think the Cardinals want to have just Kyler Murray sitting there, where if they get the number 1 pick and Caleb Williams is sitting right there,
right,
Kyler Murray shouldn't stop you from taking potentially one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a very long time.
Since Kyler.
I agree with Brandon's theory. I'm going to go the other way, though, for one reason. I believe he's right in the fact that it should be Gannon. But I don't know who's taking Kyler Murray. His reputation around the league is trash. And how do you dump that contract on somebody else? Like, even right. It's always easy to trick somebody once or twice. So if you're Stephon Gilmore, you can trick 3 teams every year.
It's the Matt Stafford deal. They're going to have to trade a first and change to even move that contract.
Yeah.
Where did Josh Rosen go after Arizona? Who's picking up the Cardinals trash? Because
isn't he in Atlanta now? Or
it was I think it was Miami at first.
It's probably a good thing that we're not 100% sure.
You stopped me on that one. I stopped paying attention to Josh Rosen so long ago.
Like, yeah,
I was high on him coming out, and then it just did not work whatsoever.
Even a little bit. Okay, so let's get into
a free agent.
Good. Hey,
he's been with Minnesota, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Minnesota.
Okay, so he went to Minnesota after Arizona.
Miami after Arizona.
Oh, Miami.
Then Tampa Bay. With Atlanta in 21. That's what I remember. I remember him playing in like a primetime game or something, and then Cleveland and Minnesota last year.
That could be fun though. Is Vikings getting done with Kirk, and then Kyler Murray having to go play in the NFC North? That would be fun. I would appreciate that.
I would be very disappointed in front offices and coaching staffs if somebody believes in Kyler Murray. Like
They're absolutely, yeah. You're gonna. I got some news. You're gonna be disappointed then, because he's gonna say the right thing. He's gonna team up with somebody in Warzone, and they're gonna really bond and play a couple weeks together. And then they're like, "Hey, we got to get Kyler. This guy knows how to lead an army." And then they're like, "Oh, well, it's a video game and not actual football. So bummer. Now we're in bad quarterback in a bad situation." Okay, let's get into some win totals. Let's do the NFC East guys for the NFC East opponents first. Cowboys over under 9.5 wins. What do we think?
Over. I don't have their schedule in front of me anymore, but I remember thinking to myself that the Eagles and the Cowboys will both win double digits games.
Let me pull up their schedule.
While you're doing that, I don't like the over, but I think the over for them as well. I think Dak is a good enough quarterback to get a team to just exactly what he's been doing, get him into double digits, and then fail. I think 10 is a good number for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I mean, looking at their schedule, They open with the Giants. They have the Jets, Cardinals, Patriots, 49ers, Chargers, Rams, Eagles, Giants again, Panthers, Commanders, Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Commanders. I think you're getting 10 wins out of that schedule.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to the what injuries they have and the absolute total dismay that happens to their offensive line once Tyron Smith goes out. So.
Well, yeah, but predicting that on July 7th is next to impossible.
So. I can predict that Tyron Smith is going to get hurt. I think we as a society are able to kind of pin that one down. Okay. New York Giants over under 7.5 wins.
Over.
I think they do what they did last year. They're right at 9. They go 9-8.
I think under. I think that they kind of regress. I think that they got a lot of dumb wins last year that I think that they're not necessarily going to get this year. I'd have to look at their schedule. I remember looking at it and I was like, that doesn't seem like that's a sustainable thing for them. I don't know. Also, I don't like them. So extreme prejudice and bias.
I'll stick with 9 or 8 for now. I now remember what we just said a couple minutes ago. That first part of that schedule is brutal. They could go 1-5. So
you're predicting another year where the NFC East is the best division in the NFL and a bad NFC.
I think Giants get 8 or 9 wins, but it won't be good enough to get them in the playoffs this year.
I'm confident in the Giants. I like Daboll's coaching staff, and I think they added enough talent. But it comes down to, can Daniel Jones replicate his season? I think he can come close. What happens if you don't have Saquon? That's a huge deciding factor for me in the sense of how does that Giants offense operate? And, how does their defense work? Because, they got the pass rush, but is that secondary up to par? So I think 7.5 is good. Once you start reaching the upper echelons, it's a bit more of a conversation.
See, I just think I'm picturing them losing to all 4 teams in the AFC East. And then Cowboys and Giants maybe split a game with the Giants or with the Cowboys, and then maybe that Week 18 game is the one that it comes down to. But I tend to think
because they can split with the NFC West too. Like they're probably not going to get around Seattle or San Francisco either. So it's probably a good point.
Okay. Washington over under 6.5.
Under.
Yes.
I'm in agreement with that. I'm taking the under.
Yeah. They now as far as a team that can't replicate what they did last year, certainly they can't replicate 500. Okay. Now for 2 teams that we are getting draft picks from, the Saints. We have their second round pick over under in their second round pick in 2024. Saints are set at over under 9.5. I don't anticipate anybody has a whole lot of knowledge for Saints team or schedule or strength of schedule, but 9.5.
Pulling it up now. That NFC South is just terrible.
It really, 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 really is not very good.
Somebody's got to win it, and I think that's going to be Carolina. So the Saints have Tennessee, Carolina, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, New England, Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Chicago, Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit, Carolina, New York.
You're saying all those, man. I feel like I just heard 10 wins.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I think the Saints, with by far, as of now, we obviously don't know what CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are going to be, or that's a completely different conference, but they still play that conference. NFC South, they have the best quarterback in that division.
By
a decent margin. Obviously, Bryce Young is in the NFC South. He plays for the Carolina Panthers. Falcons, we don't know anything about Desmond Ridder. Tampa Bay, I'm not even going to comment on their starting quarterbacks. But just so you guys know, it's currently Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask.
Love that.
I think the Saints, who also play the AFC South, if they don't get over 9.5 wins with that schedule, something went horribly wrong.
Yeah, you're probably right. You mentioning the Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask. I'm just picturing that quarterback room, just like all fart jokes and just guys being dudes, just like so they just like chugging beers.
I believe it's going to be better than people think they are. I'm going to guarantee the Saints lose to the Pack, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Vikings, and the Lions. So that's 5 losses there. And they benefit from playing in a very bad division, but it's still gonna be hard to get to 9.
Right.
They might get swept by Carolina.
I'm going to say, as far as getting the number one, like the division winner schedule for the next year, this is not a bad year to do it for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, Vikings, because we have the Jalen Reagor pick is still in limbo, a conditional 5th to 4th potentially, I believe, on some things, maybe touchdowns or yards or game start, whatever. Vikings over under 8.5 yards. Yes, 8.5 wins.
I think the Vikings win that division again. I know that Detroit is the hot pick right now, but I think the Vikings win that division again. And they might do it with 9 or 10. So, that ends up being a tiebreaker with the Giants and their 9 wins. And
I see the NFC North being a NFC South from last year, where somebody had to make it.
Yeah, I don't see the Vikings winning over 8.5. I really don't. I think the most they're getting to is 8 wins. As someone that's watched a decent chunk of Vikings games and just kind of followed what's been going on, it just seems like they overachieved last year. It seems like a lot of really close games, a lot of games where they're sneaking out in the end. I mean, one of the main games that sticks out to me is, they lost or they beat the Jets because Braxton Berrios drops a touchdown in the end zone. You have different games where if the Giants are able to execute or this team's able to execute, Vikings, a lot of those 1-score games that they're winning can easily be flipped. And the ironic thing is, we've seen this before with them. Like, we've seen Vikings teams that seem like they're really good, seem like they're heading the right trajectory, and then the next season, just complete opposite, because those 1-score games are so hard to replicate. I don't see them winning more than 8 games, like I said.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Okay, next one. Let's talk about some ex-Eagles coaches. Let's go Shane Steichen with the Colts over under 6.5 wins.
Can I push?
Can they just tie them all?
It's tough.
I like Shane. I like his play calling. It's going to be hard to replicate with who is that? Who's there? It's
Anthony Richardson?
It is Anthony Richardson. He just has to beat Gardner Minshew.
The Colts can beat the Texans twice, right?
Yeah, certainly.
I'm a fan of Houston. Like, I don't think they're going to be great, but I think they can at least take one from Indy.
Yeah, probably so.
They always lose.
I'm going to say they win 6. What was it? Was it over 6 or under?
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah,
I must take him right at 6.
That's what I was thinking as well.
I think that's a fair number. I mean, they're going to split games with the Jaguars. They always lose to the Jaguars in Jacksonville for like a long time. Like, it's a really long streak. They're a ways away from being good. We talked about him for a minute. Jonathan Gannon with the Arizona Cardinals. Their over under is 4.5 wins, baby.
4 might be their number.
And I did look this up in case you were wondering and you wanted to put a flyer out there on something. The Arizona Cardinals, and this is the lowest odds. So this is they're the favorited team to end with this. Arizona Cardinals to finish 0-17 is plus 1,600.
That's so wrong.
I put a bet on it. I don't think the Cardinals win more than 3 games. I really don't. And I know that's so hard because any given Sunday, anything can happen on a game-to-game basis in the NFL. This is one of the worst rosters we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, that NFC West is pretty trash. And then last but not least, Eagles.
I got them as the underdogs in every game except their home game versus Los Angeles.
They're going to end up putting that on like prime time.
I was going to give them Chicago, but they're on the road in Chicago in week 16. So no,
like that Cardinals Rams game is going to end. Is that how late in the season is that?
Oh, they got the Rams in week 12, and They got them early in week 6.
I just feel like that week 12 one, is that going to be able to fall into the ability for the NFL to flex a game into Thursday night? They're gonna force us to watch that, and it's I'm gonna, but like I'll not be of right mind.
I don't understand why Chicago and Arizona in week 16 is a 4:25 kickoff.
Well, because they're two powerhouses is the thing. That's gross. That is gross. Okay. Last but not least, Eagles over under 11.5 wins.
Over. I said 12-5 or 13-4.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well.
I've gone on 13-4 is that's where I'm at. But that, I believe, unless I missed any, I already said last but not least, so it doesn't actually matter if I see one that I missed. Yeah, there we go. That is it. That's all the props that I found. Not found, made. Came up with a few of them my own. Some non-football things. Mostly
Great
football.
work, fellas. Extra innings. Game winner in the 11th inning. Good job.
It was a marathon is what it was, but we did it. Look at us. It's called grit.
Yes, sir.
Love to see it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for sticking around and watching this, coming back and listening to it again and again and again. I have a sultry voice. Put your child to sleep to my voice. That's all do that kind of a thing. This is fun. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. And we will talk to you next week. Same time next week. How about that? That work?